Thank you. I've come to you today to answer a question. It's a question that many of you, as Christians, might not have asked before. Perhaps this is because the question has never occurred to you. Perhaps the discussions this question stimulates aren't the sort you're usually interested in. And perhaps some of you haven't asked the question before because you didn't think you had to. You knew the answer already. The question, as those of you who saw the sign announcing the topic of today's service outside have no doubt deduced, is this: what is an atheist? I hope you don't feel as though I'm insulting your intelligence. All of you, I'm sure, know the dictionary definition of the word atheist. What I'm here to do is to explain atheism in such a way that you will, hopefully, come away from this talk with an understanding of it that is broader and deeper than that definition. Understanding is important. During his first inaugural address in 1861, Abraham Lincoln said of the Confederate rebels who, as he spoke, were preparing to make war against the rest of the United States, quote, "We are not enemies, but friends." That's how I've come to view those of you whose beliefs about God, religion, the nature of the world differ from my own. There is no victory to be won here. I didn't come hoping to lure any of you away from the church, and I thank you all for showing me the equivalent courtesy during my short time here this morning and in our dealings previously. There is no victory to be won, but hopefully there is an understanding that can be reached between us. Not all atheists feel as I do on this subject. Some are far more combative, and others, it's fair to say, are far more conciliatory. My hope is not that we will eventually agree. It's not even that we will agree to disagree, because that, I fear, would mean the end of the conversation. Rather, I hope that we are able to disagree agreeably, and that we will share at least one thing in common: the desire to understand one another. For much of my life, I've tried to understand why people of deep religious conviction believe what they believe. For many years, though I rarely attended church, I identified myself as a Christian. My wife comes from a very sincere and devout Christian family and attended church with them regularly until she left home to attend college. We both come from families that have maintained strong religious traditions. Given this background, I think I've made more than a token effort to learn about and understand Christianity, what Christians believe, and why they choose to believe it. There are still more than a few things about your faith, my former faith, that puzzle me, but perhaps some of you can set me straight afterwards. Unfortunately, I have not found many Christians with the same level of curiosity about my worldview. Atheism is feared, demonized, mischaracterized, or misunderstood by a large portion of the Christian community. Not all of it is malicious, but the overall impression I have gotten as I have engaged in conversations with Christians over the years is that atheists are the enemy. I'm not here to tell you otherwise. I'm here to be honest with you, because the desire to be honest with others and with oneself is a big part of atheism, at least for me. So I'm not going to pat your hand and assure you that we atheists respect your beliefs and only want you to respect ours in return. I'm going to explain what atheism is and what it means to be an atheist the best way I can, and then you can begin to decide for yourselves whether I am an enemy or a friend. So let's talk about that dictionary definition for a minute. An atheist, very simply defined, is someone who does not believe in any God. That's really the only qualification. If you don't believe in any God, then you're an atheist, regardless of what else you believe. There's a lot of room under that umbrella, so let me get a little more specific. There are some other beliefs that are widely held in the atheist community, though they aren't necessary to being an atheist. For instance, Most atheists reject any belief in the supernatural. This includes not only gods, but immortal souls, ghosts, psychic energy, astral projection, telekinesis, foretelling of the future, magic, things like that. We believe that the mind is the product of the brain, that human life is finite, and that the universe can be fully explained and understood in natural, physical terms. As long as I'm talking about what many of us do believe, let me take a moment to dispel some commonly held myths about atheists. First, atheists don't hate God. I'm not an atheist because I hate God or because I'm angry with God over something I think he did to me that wasn't fair. I'm not angry with God about anything. I think God is imaginary. How can I be angry with someone I don't believe exists? I presume most of you don't believe Zeus exists. That doesn't mean you hate Zeus. In fact, not believing in him, some of you probably find the idea of hating Zeus to be pretty silly. That's exactly how most atheists feel when we're accused of hating the God of Christianity. Second, atheism is not another form of religious faith. Atheism is a belief, it is a faith position, but there are different types of faith, aren't there? I don't think comparing atheism to Christianity, which depends on your acceptance of a divine revelation in which none of you were directly involved, makes for a very good analogy. Placing atheism side by side with disbelief in Santa Claus makes for a much more useful comparison. Every Christmas, up until I was probably 9 or 10, the presents for me under the tree were addressed from Santa. My little brother and I would write Santa a note before bed on Christmas Eve and leave a plate of cookies and a glass of milk out on the kitchen table. The next morning, the milk would be drunk, the cookies would be gone, and there would be a little thank you note from Santa himself. Add that to the presents, and what more evidence did I need? Yet, as I grew older, I began to notice things. Problems in the Santa theory, you might say. For instance, our fireplace had a stove in it. How did Santa get through that? Why did the handwriting on Santa's thank you notes look suspiciously like my mother's? And if Santa brought the presents, what was with all the Christmas shopping? Plus, everyone said Santa lived at the North Pole, but people had been to the North Pole. The North Pole had been photographed by satellites and mapped. There was no Santa to be found. And that's how I gradually let my belief in Santa Claus go. It wasn't a single moment of clarity. It didn't hit me like a thunderbolt. It wasn't a revelation. Slowly, year by year, a more plausible explanation for what I experienced every Christmas emerged. Mom wrote the thank you notes, drank the milk, and ate the cookies. Mom and Dad and Pap and Granny bought us the presents. The stove in the fireplace was no obstacle, and the North Pole was free of elves and toy workshops and flying reindeer, because there was no Santa Claus. Now, does that mean I am absolutely 100% certain there is no Santa Claus? No. This is important to understanding what an atheist is. I conclude on the basis of the best available evidence that Santa Claus is a myth. I believe there is no Santa Claus because it is the most plausible belief given the available facts. If the available facts were to change, that belief might not be so plausible. This is a very scientific way of viewing the world. In science, facts are provisional. I take the non-existence of Santa Claus to be a fact. But that fact is supported by other facts, which in turn are supported by still other facts, and so on. Everything we know is the result of observing, predicting, experimenting, and trying to find the most likely explanations. And it is all open to revision at any time by anyone. When I tell you I don't believe in God, I'm not telling you that I'm 100% certain, not a doubt in my mind, that there is no God. I'm telling you that the non-existence of God is the most likely scenario given everything that we know about ourselves, our planet, and the greater universe of which we are but a tiny part. Most of you disagree with me. That's fine. You have every right to disagree with me. But before I go, I want to ask you something. Do you disagree with me because you have honestly and courageously pursued the question of God's existence, searched for evidence, examined many arguments from many different points of view, and reached a different conclusion? Or do you disagree with me because you've always believed in God, you've never known any different, and you've never wanted to know any different? One of those I can respect, but not the other. I'm an atheist because I care whether or not the things I believe in are true, are real, are built on a solid foundation. I'm not an atheist because I hate God, or because I was raised in an atheistic tradition. I wasn't. I'm an atheist because, if I'm honest with myself, given everything I know about this remarkable, mysterious, sad, and beautiful world, it's the only thing I can be. Thank you again, and may God, if He exists, have mercy on my soul if I have one.